Okay. So, upon having our conversation last week about the concept of my uh, portal to the past camera,
Okay.
uh, which you should recall.
I'm gearing up for you to tell me that you got it working.
So, obviously, that entire conversation got out of control, and you were successfully able to convert it into podcast funsies
Yeah.
by putting a Pope hat on my head,
Yeah.
despite my best efforts to violently.
I think
fling
the
it off.
funniest thing I've ever seen in my life is the Reddit thread of I think Pat was too critical of Woolie's religion this week, which is just like,
Yep. When all I really wanted to talk about was the tool.
yeah, the tool that will
Right.
lead to such power.
Well, like,
See, that's not me converting it. That's me making a joke. But when everyone's like, oh, dude, fuck, he's totally gonna do it.
you know what? You know what? Okay, right. I suppose so. Like, so in other words, then I need to staunchly hold the line on all points of conversation.
'Cause if you're like,
and
yeah,
not allow you an inch.
I don't know if cults.
You're
happen.
telling. So I have to bunker down and bring out the fucking.
If cults happen, man, cults happen. Like everyone's like, oh man, Woolie's starting a cult.
But it's like, but like literally, it's like, what if a technology?
Yeah.
And then suddenly, but what about the implications of this technology?
Right.
Right. So all this to say that when we went to so when that was done, all said and done, some folks brought up that, like, where there were some stories that totally actually touched on this subject matter before.
Okay.
I think one of them was called like the light of days past or something like that, or it was, I forget. But more to the point, right now, there was an Asimov short story
Of course there is.
called
There always
The
is.
Dead Past,
Okay.
in which the invention of the Chronoscope
Okay. Wow.
exists.
That's dead on.
And I was like, I need to know.
Asimov, why are you so smart? And
So
dead?
good. So good. Okay, so can I just
Yeah.
tell this story?
Give me one moment. I'm gonna use the restroom.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, folks. Everyone on the live thing. Sorry.
Okay, he's gonna do the thing.
I'm gonna do the thing.
All right, I'll. It's pretty solid, so I'll wait on that.
Door open and just like listen
I mean, I'll talk loud enough that you can maybe hear it, I guess.
through the door.
Do what you got to do. So The Dead Past. If you want to go read this yourself, then you can. But I'm gonna just spoil it here because of how interesting it is and like how well he approaches the subject matter, right? So the premise and the thing that makes this so cool is that it's not just taking a look at the idea of the chronoscope and saying that, like, hey, the world has this piece of technology. What kind of crazy sci-fi story are we going to get from it? It actually takes it and puts it in the dry and boring world of academia, because the main character of the story is a historian who's obsessed with trying to find out about, I think it was Carthage, the Carthaginians, and how there's not much written about their culture. They're always been written about through like the cultures they fought with, like the Greeks and so on throughout history. But he wants to find out about some details that they never recorded, including like the idea that, hey, whenever they warred with people, the Greeks said that they worship Moloch, and that means that they sacrifice children to the fire, right? Which is
Sucks ass, bro.
ridiculous.
Don't do that.
And so they're like, oh no, we don't want, and so he's like, that's not real. They just exaggerated that. They didn't actually tell their own stories. So we need to use this tech to look back and see what they did.
Right.
Right. That's what this historian wants.
Said Carthaginians.
I believe so.
Got it. All right.
From Carthage. So, and what you kind of end up with is, so you have this historian that has this. Now, the tech exists in the world, and the government pretty much has control over it.
Mm.
Science in this world is more or less controlled in such a way where you don't just, you can choose what you want to go into, but like they hand out research grants to people that to do specific things.
Fair enough.
And chronoscopy, as it's called.
Don't like that, but all right.
Well, chronoscopy and neutronics. Neutronics is the study, the field that directly relates, because the neutrino particle allows you to use a chronoscope, which lets you view the past, right? So what they do is the government basically puts out these little monthly bulletins that are like, hey, we looked back a couple thousand years and we've discovered this fact about this thing.
Cool.
So here's a little update on that, right?
Yeah.
And they're all little minor things ultimately, but it's been like 50 years since the discovery of this tech.
Nothing crazy.
And nothing nuts, right?
Okay.
That's about it. So
no, Hitler was a space alien.
Nothing wild like that, you know? And it's all, and so like people just got used to that as an thing where they're like, okay, well, the government has this tech and
get some cool
there's some science people working on it.
Factoids from now and then.
But that's it, right? And then basically this guy, this historian, he's kind of obsessed with proving this thing about about Carthage, because and he has like this aversion to cigarettes the entire story.
Yeah.
You eventually find out that like it's because he lost his daughter at like the age of 3 or so.
Yeah.
And that like technically he was responsible because his lit cigarette burnt the house down.
Yeah, that happens.
So the whole idea of them sacrificing children in the fire is a thing that comes back to haunt him. So he wants to prove it with his work.
Okay.
Right?
Don't smoke.
Okay. So he eventually is like, well, he goes to apply to use the chronoscope, and then they're like, nah, fuck off.
Man.
And he's like, but like I have some important things to prove, and they're like, yeah, doesn't matter. Sorry. Denied, right? So then he basically goes to like a faculty kind of meeting, and he goes to these little pompous university gatherings of the whatever.
Yeah.
And a new engineer / person who's looking into gravitational physics is like someone he finds at this meeting, and it's like a young, bright-eyed person that's trying to change the world and maybe have some fresh ideas. And he's like, let me talk to this kid. And then he talks to him, and they kind of make friends, and he proposes to him. He kind of basically slowly convinces him and goes like, hey, why do you think nothing's happened in this field? I have no idea. I'm a historian, but you're someone that could actually go in and learn the details of this. What's up with that, right?
Yeah.
And the guy's like, oh, dude, you're thinking dangerously, man. The government doesn't like that stuff, you know? But then he's like, but why haven't they had any breakthroughs in this tech, right? What's up with that? And then they kind of find out that the government's been stifling it.
Of course it has.
Okay. So
yeah.
Right. So it eventually leads down this path where he's able to go and use his uncle's connections to build
his own.
Yeah. This is the premise, right? And immediately the historian's wife shows up and is basically obsessed with the idea of this thing being created. And then historian's like, oh fuck, she just wants to stare at the 3 years that our daughter was alive,
of course,
over and over and over again. This is a bad idea. We need to back off, right? Because you have to watch it in real time. It's not, you can't fast forward.
All right.
You're like, a day is a day. You know what I mean? Eventually he goes, hey dude, you need to stop making this thing, right? And then the guy's like, nah, the government censoring this is not right.
We have to know, man.
We have to know, you know?
To tell everybody.
And then he turns it on and he notices, he's like, okay, so here's what we know. It only goes back about 125 years.
Okay.
It doesn't go back thousands of years. So the government is super lying.
Got it.
Right? What the fuck?
All right.
Dude's like, a historian is like, abort this, right?
All right.
And then he's like, nah, fuck you. They get into a big fight, go their separate ways. Eventually, historian comes back and government agent person is with him.
Sure.
And he goes, dude, I'm sorry, but like people are just going to be obsessed with the dead past, right? They're just going to be staring at their dead kids or their lost parents and things that, you know, and like this is bad, right? And then they basically have this showdown with the government agent who more or less goes, dudes, like, yeah, you guys are going to just go to jail.
Yeah.
And you're going to not have a trial. And we're going to survey you and make sure that nothing ever comes of this. The end. And they're like, what the fuck? But we live in a society that is open and free. Now our
We live
trial.
in
will-
a
We live in
society.
a society. And then the guy's like, yeah, I don't care. You guys are going away forever. Fuck you, right? And then physicist goes, well, it's too late. I've already sent the designs out to a ton of people.
Everybody, I've
Everyone's gonna
democratized
have
the
it,
thing, yeah.
right? And then motherfucker's like, asshole, the idea of the past, you think of it as, let's say it's 125 years ago is what we've been saying. We've been feeding people the idea that it's thousands of years ago because the idea of it being current is not okay, right? And when you think of 125 years ago, you go, oh, I can find out what 2 people ago, what was happening,
Yeah.
right? Sort of recent-ish history,
Yeah.
but then also you think of what's the past to you? Your childhood,
Yeah.
right? Your best memories. Sure, everyone gets obsessed with that, right?
Yeah.
But then eventually maybe people stop getting obsessed with that. What is the past? Is the past like when you were 10 years old, when you were 20? What about an hour ago? What if we set this chronoscope to watch what happened 1/1000th of a second ago? You can now watch everything. What's the difference between that and the present? Nothing. You can now watch the present and everyone can see everything.
Yeah.
And society is effectively ruined because every moment you ever thought that was private is no longer private. Nothing exists anymore. And then he goes, and then like the reveal of like, yeah, that the tech is out there happens, and then government guy goes, well, happy goldfish bowl to you, fuck you, I hope you burn in hell, arrest rescinded. So the idea of the whole story is that like if you can view the past, there's no hard limit, right? Or rather, if you can view the past, you can view 1 second ago, which is the present, which means people's lives get super fucked up.
Yeah.
Because everyone sees everything and the very concept of privacy disappears.
So here's what I thought was going to happen.
Super good story.
I thought what you were going to say is that he goes back and looks at time and sees them sacrificing the kids to Moloch, and Moloch is there. And then the government shows up and goes, Moloch doesn't like what you're doing.
Okay. So, one, can we acknowledge that Isaac is a fucking god?
Yeah, Isaac Asimov is a smart sci-fi man.
Okay, 2, right? Within the world that we've created with this story, that's so interesting. You have the full setup, and then you have the limitations put in place, which is after you go further back than 125 years, it just becomes noise.
It's
right?
unstable, whatever.
Exactly, right? If there was a way to reverse those things and make it so that you could see nothing present, but only that far back, then a lot of that danger element goes away.
Yeah, sure.
Excuse
Bless
me.
you.
And then you could never see anything that would affect your lifetime. But it would be an interesting, like, thought where society would not immediately be changed to a place where there's no such thing as privacy and every secret you've ever had comes up. But it would become a place where you know that your descendants and the future people will be able to see everything
Oh no, my balls.
you've ever done.
Woolie, what's the title of this?
The Dead Past.
The Dead Past. Okay.
Right, and it comes up a lot, and it's really it's like he brings it up in the context of going back to watch your dead kid. You're obsessed with watching the dead.
Why
past.
do you watch your dead kids? They're dead.
Yeah, because you've never got over them. The wife never got over it.
We'll get over it.
Yeah, that's what he says.
Yeah.
Right, but he also never told her about the fact that his lit cigarette burnt the house down.
We should have done that.
Well, yeah, he should have.
Yeah.
Right, and then it's like the idea that humanity is obsessed with the dead past is something that will haunt us. But here's the problem.
No, get over it, idiots.
But there is no dead past. There's no difference between the long distant past and the present moment in the sense that like the past is not there. There's no blur. It's not even a blurred line. It's the moment the present happens. It's the past. So the concept itself means, again, all privacy, all surveillance, all the time, no longer exists. It's just a world of perfect information.
Well, I have a solution. I have a solution. The government says if you use this machine, someone will come into your house and shoot you.
Yeah.
And then they use the machine to see who's using it at any given time.
So the way that the government showed up to begin with is because they were checking out, they were using it to find the guys in the story.
It's like if you use this machine, someone will come into your house and shoot you within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And they follow through on that for a couple of years, and then problem solved.
But the weakness was that they could only watch them, and they didn't watch the uncle who sent out the designs to everybody.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's, again, they have 24 hours. It's real-time watching and viewing. But, I mean, you could put rules in place like only use it for long time viewing.
I mean, you can put rules in place on anything.
Exactly, right? So the rules that Asimov created in the story are compelling ones to the nature of this story, right? The idea that you like, if the rules didn't state that you could not view the long past, then you could put things in place that say like you can only view things older than this, right? And then they're also, it's like, okay, but if everyone can do it, there's also there's a million different problems that can arise in society in that way. But I just fucking love this story because it got me thinking about this entire concept in a different way, because it's like, it's more than just people rejecting the notions that they've like based their life upon. It becomes a question of like what happens to society.
Well, you open up the portal and you can see any universal truth. That means you can look at anyone's balls.
Sure. I hate the word universal truth because it sounds so...
Doesn't it?
It sounds so shitty, brainwashed, and fake and dumb.
It does.
So I hate the fact that you're trying to push that when it's ultimately just like, it is a chronoscope. It is a what happened in this point in time in this place.
Okay, incontrovertible, unassailable truth, whatever. Like
floating camera.
Objective truth, whatever.
Chronoscope. What happened there? Show the camera.
No,
right?
I will not use your word.
No, because the words universal truth are just so ripe for the picking that like 80 different comics.
That's why they picked it.
But
because it's good.
Yeah, but like 80 different stories and comics were like, oh yeah, here's that Church of the Universal Truth from this thing where a bunch of assholes are convinced that their way is the only way.
Stop staring at our balls through the window.
And there's a million things, like there's a Spider-Man fucking gang that runs by that name, you know? So that's an awful name. Even the word truth there is like, it's almost like, hey, these are the languages, this is the words that religious assholes use, you know? So let's not even use those. But yeah, chronoscopy, if you would, in this context.
Yeah, I'm not saying that.
That's fine. But the idea of the camera that can point back and look at a thing, you cannot let that view the immediate past.
No, of course not.
You know, it needs to have but
wouldn't that solve every problem ever?
But if it did exist, like let's say that happened and you couldn't do anything about it, happy goldfish bowl to you and me.
Yeah.
You would then have to start living a life, and society would change on the dot to the idea of, well, Big Brother is forever.
Did you see Minority Report?
Sure. I did. But it only showed crimes. It didn't show every moment of everyone's.
They just chose crimes.
And of course they had to sacrifice someone to do it.
Yeah.
So, it's a fascinating thing because I imagine after about 2 or 3 generations of children being born into a world where everything is under perfect surveillance, then people would literally start to become different people.
There's a solution to this problem.
Ethics and morals are no longer optional unless you opt out from, unless you stop caring about the results of your actions.
So I have a solution.
If consequences is an incentive, then you have to abide.
I have a solution to this nightmare future, and that is burn it down. If we burn it down hard enough that we go back to the Stone Age, then we will not have to worry about these problems.
Some would think that the very concept of porn would just evaporate.
Oh yeah, totally.
I disagree. I imagine, because you cannot stop those urges, that people would be forced to just accept that, hey, there is going to be porn and the sexing and the masturbation in people's lives, and you would have to be
why would
the idea of like, oh, getting embarrassed caught watching porn?
No, that's Wooly.
What?
Porn would explode times a shit zillion times because you could watch anything.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is the idea of, oh no, people can like watch me as I'm jerking off.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's my point, right?
Yeah.
So there was a thought that was just put out about just like, oh no, everyone would stop watching porn, and it's like, no.
No, people would watch porn at a rate never before seen.
And like everyone would just have to stop caring about whether or not they're being.
That's right.
Like voyeured.
Yeah.
Everyone becomes a voyeur.
Every shit you take, someone's in the bowl like Chuck Berry looking at you.
Those who want to be.
Yeah.
And then voyeurism shoots up, and then you're voyeuring someone, and someone else is voyeuring your voyeuring.
Like, well, this is actually really awkward.
Inception, right? And everybody's staring at somebody that's staring at someone else that's getting into it.
Yeah, burn it down.
The world gets fucking weird.
Burn it down.
The world gets weird, but like everybody, is forced into a place where they're like, you know what? Everyone can see my junk, and that's all there is to it.
So who needs clothes anymore?
The examples also given cover things like how they're like, yeah, anyone who's like a celebrity, every second of their life is now done.
Yeah.
Like, people might not go and take a look at someone they've never met,
Right.
but like anyone who's like a fucking household name, it's like, yeah, your life is over. You're just, that's it, you know? So
Wear 10 clothes.
So it's a fucked up, weird way to go.
Wear 10 clothes and get a tube.
And crime evaporates as well, except for those who do not care about the consequences.
I don't know. It depends how much crime we're talking about. Once you hit a certain level of crime, then it's crime, crime, crime.
Well, if everything gets caught, then you only do crimes.
Yeah, but what if the cops are too busy looking at their own bullshit to do crime stuff?
Well, I imagine that this changes the entire nature of investigating.
Because, like, you're talking about people, oh, everyone's staring at the dead past. Sounds like a good time to rob people's houses.
Maybe, but I don't know. We're getting...
You gotta be a pragmatist about this.
Getting in the weeds there. I would imagine that crime efficiency is just like, look, if we don't catch you today, you did that crime when? Once? Okay, I have... How long to find and catch you?
Woolie, do you know how flooded... you know how flooded the fucking crime house, what's it called? Police station would be if they could see all crime simultaneously? There would be mass quantities of types of crimes that would suddenly just never be prosecuted because there's way worse crimes happening all the time. Everything below murder becomes fair game.
Yeah. And I imagine there's like that initial period is everyone who got away with the worst shit goes and gets caught.
Yeah.
Right? And then it starts becoming an overwhelming crime factory of a time.
Yeah.
Right? I imagine at some point when we're talking about the generations pass scenario that people start to, again, like probably not want to risk it.
I don't know, Woolie. It's been thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and human nature has changed precious little. I think you think too highly of your future-telling techno-future to think that people would actually substantively change the way that they live their lives regardless of the consequences.
I think there would have to be an embracing of, well, when I get caught, I get caught.
Fuck that. No one ever is like, oh, you got me.
I mean as in, like, I don't care if I get caught. It's not how you got me as much as it is...
Yeah, a lot of people don't care if they get caught.
Right. And so that type of criminal never goes away, for sure.
Yeah.
But, like...
Criminals who love crime. It means what we will be doing is we'll be moving down to super crime. As the only people doing crime would be those that love it as a career.
Remember, the punishment is for crime is an incentive to not commit the crime. It can't stop the person who is dead set on committing the crime.
That's right.
From doing it anyway.
Yeah, if you're saying to yourself, boy, I sure do love doing crimes, it's very difficult to convince that person to stop loving crime.
If you're a crime purist, you will continue to be that in this perfect surveillance world.
That's correct.
Right? But if you were like...
You're making me want to go out and do crimes.
But if you were someone
like
who...
You're romanticizing it.
If you were someone who was... if it was not that much of a crime purist that was just impulsively like, maybe I can get away... No.
Here's the thing, Willie.
No, you're not.
There are three types of criminals. There are crimes of passion, there are crimes of profit, and there are crimes of compulsion.
Yes.
Right?
Sure.
Crimes of profit, not necessarily monetary profit, are under the assumption that they won't get caught. So those people will absolutely be stopped by such a plan. However, crimes of compulsion or passion would not be affected by this at all.
No.
Crimes of passion, you don't consider consequences.
No, you just do it.
And crimes of compulsion, you may consider consequences, but you can't help it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. No, man, society gets all kinds of fucked. And here's the other problem, too. Like, everyone that has, like, any kind of helicopter parenting, like, antics in their brain to the, like, worst possible degree, any... paranoid girlfriend that is like, where the fuck were you? You know what I mean? Like, all of those get fed to infinity, in this type of
I
scenario.
don't know.
as
You'd be
well.
like, hey, honey, where are you? Where were you? Were you with that bitch? No, I was with my friends. We were playing pool. Really? Yeah, use the time machine, dumbass.
Yeah. So, all that to say,
P.S. I'm out of here.
yeah, that's correct. All that to say that even though blah, all that to say that there is a really great story based on this concept that touches on some really fun ideas, and it creates like in-world limitations that cause what I was talking about to not be possible. But I think it's a much more interesting discussion when you look at it from Asimov's point of view.
Well,
Who'd have thought?
Well, Asimov's a genius. That's not fair.
So yeah.
What if robots? You're right, Asimov. like
Yeah.